Welcome to Airway First, the podcast dedicated to examining the vital issues surrounding airway disorders and their profound impact on children's health. I'm your host, Chloe Appleberry. In this episode, we're going to break down what airway disorders are, and we're going to highlight key warning signs that parents should be aware of. We're also going to discuss common habits that can contribute to or worsen these conditions. You know, we hear a lot about disorders, but what exactly is an airway disorder? And why, as a parent, should we be concerned about our child's breathing? Lately, I've been delving deep into the world of airway health, and I've been learning what optimal breathing looks like for both children and adults. I've discovered that airway disorders and abnormalities are not only widespread, but they can also have some serious consequences. Airway disorders, they cover a spectrum of conditions affecting the pathways that carry air in and out of the lungs. These can involve either the upper or lower airway, and they may present as acute or chronic illnesses. While many people are familiar with conditions like asthma, obstructive sleep apnea, or cystic fibrosis, there are also numerous other airway disorders that often go unrecognized. It's also common for certain airway issues to be mistaken as normal. You know, think of that child that is always congested and breathes through their mouth constantly. While this might seem harmless for some, symptoms such as mouth breathing, snoring, loud breathing, or persistent congestion are actually signs of an underlying problem and can negatively affect a child's development. Today, I am joined by Sharon Moore, speech pathologist and founder of Well-Spoken Upper Airway and Communication Solutions. Together, we'll explore the nature of airway disorders, why they're so damaging, and how everyday habits can play a role in either creating or exacerbating a problem. We are honored to welcome Sharon Moore to the Airway First podcast. Sharon is a renowned speech pathologist, author, and sleep health advocate based in Canberra, Australia, with over 4 decades of clinical experience helping children and adults overcome upper airway and communication disorders. She is the founder of Well-Spoken Upper Airway and Communication Solutions, where she has worked with more than 40,000 families, focusing on the critical intersections of breathing, eating, and communication for optimal health and development. Her expertise lies in integrating orofacial myofunctional principles into traditional speech pathology, allowing her to address complex issues such as breathing, swallowing, chewing, and sleep-disordered breathing in children and adults. As the author of the acclaimed book, Sleep-Wrecked Kids, Sharon has become a leading voice in raising awareness about pediatric sleep disorders and the vital importance of healthy airway development. Her work has inspired collaboration between medical, dental, and educational professionals to tackle the global epidemic of sleep and breathing problems in children. Sharon is also an international speaker, educator, and advocate for global health initiatives, contributing to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and supporting organizations like Sleeping Children around the world. Please join me in the honor of welcoming a true pioneer in airway health and a champion for children's well-being, Ms. Sharon Moore. Everyone clap. Ms. Sharon Moore, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for that fantastic introduction. The thrill and honor is all mine. I'm here in your beautiful city, Seattle, and it really is a beautiful day today. And I'm here in the US, which is a long way from my home in Australia. Mm-hmm. Can I just add, when we say my hometown, when you read it, it's Canberra.
Canberra.
Yeah, it's Canberra, but do you know how we say it?
How do you say it?
Canberra.
Canberra.
I know, that's the Aussie accent.
Canberra.
Anyway, ignore that. That's just for a little bit of a side chat. Canberra. Yes.
Canberra.
And
do Americans,
I'm not correcting you.
Do Americans pronounce it as Canberra, or is it?
Everyone does, because
I was going to say, is it?
That's exactly how you read it. So
okay.
What you did was perfect.
Okay.
I was just letting you know how we Aussies
Canberra.
talk.
Okay. I love it. I love it.
And one of the things I really resonated with what you said, thank you so much for those kind words, is the passionate advocacy for children's health, because I really believe that that's where I am in my career at this point.
Yeah, yeah. And I also, that leads me into the question I wanted to ask you, what led you to the vital work that you are doing and what drives your passion for it?
Oh, gosh, so many things. Where does one start?
Mhm.
Well, 4 decades is a long time to work,
Yes.
right? So, and I've really chosen to keep doing clinical work with a lot of academic work on the side in all of those 4 decades and lots of learning. But in my clinical work, I've always worked with medical and dental specialist referrals. So a referral would come to me from a medical specialist, saying, "Dear Sharon, could you please help little Johnny with some kind of airway disorder or dysfunction?" And so speech pathologists who get those kind of referrals, that's about how the muscle systems are supporting the essential functions in the airway, like breathing, like eating, like speaking, like voice, like saliva control. We don't think about those things, do we? I don't know. Do you think about those things, Chloe?
Not at all. Not before our intensive 2-day.
No, exactly. And well, we don't think about them because they happen so naturally in everyday life. We only think about them when something goes wrong.
Yeah.
So if something went seriously wrong with swallowing or breathing,
Yes.
we would choke.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to ignore that, right? But there are many other signs and symptoms, might we call them, that would indicate that not something quite so serious, but that the system's not working as well. So it's been my job as a speech pathologist to assess, to diagnose and treat what that might be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the job itself over those 4 decades has, I guess, taught me many things about the complex system. But over time, I think the favourite parts of my work have been working with little people
I love that.
and their families, and I never get sick of it to this very day. I love little people. And what I noticed is that, of course, there are some children who've got more medically complex problems. They're diagnosed from the outset, but there are many other children who are supposedly otherwise healthy, and there's lots of signs and symptoms that tell us that they might not have a diagnosable disorder, but things are certainly not working as well as they should be. And that if we recognize those signs, we might be able to avert or avoid it developing into something worse.
Yeah.
And even though those signs aren't necessarily diagnosable, they still cause problems
Right.
that affect learning, behavior, focus, emotional regulation,
Yeah. Yeah.
sleep.
Yeah.
Okay, so even though we might not think of it as a serious problem, they still have all those other outcomes. And I think the more I saw that happening in children, the more worried I was and the more passionate I felt about making sure that we start to recognize that and do something about it. And I mean, the other part of that clinically is I cannot tell you how many times I've been working with kids and their parents who are so sleep wrecked,
Yeah.
they can't even do therapy effectively because that's what happens. You
Yeah.
don't get the right sleep.
Yeah.
So there's all that.
Yeah.
And so I really believe that health professionals, because health is actually part of our title, that we should be working on health promotion as well.
That's very inspiring. And you can really see your passion for that. You spend 10 minutes with you can really exudes, your passion exudes from you. So that's really inspiring, Miss Sharon. And what you mentioned is that a lot of people, it's not every day that we hear about these things. And so for people who are new to the channel and who are new into airway health, can you explain to us what exactly is an airway disorder?
Aha, yes, incredibly good question. Okay, an airway disorder or dysfunction is a condition that is diagnosable by a medical or qualified health professional. And it could be anything from asthma to allergic rhinitis to sleep disordered breathing to something called dysphagia. Have you heard of that?
I have not.
That's a swallowing disorder.
Okay.
That's the official diagnosis that we would make as a speech pathologist. Or dysphonia. Have you heard of that? That's the diagnostic category for a voice disorder when the voice is husky and not working or cutting in and out for some reason.
I've met someone who's had that.
Oh, there's a lot of people with that.
Yeah.
And lots of kids too, actually, when they've got runny noses and colds and things, they almost always have a husky voice. Or if they yell all the time, that'll do it as well. Yeah. Anyway, so there are things like resonance disorders. Have you heard of that? Yeah, no. So that's when the soft palate's not working properly, and the soft palate, which sits behind the upper jaw, it's a flap of muscle that opens and shuts like a door and controls how much air comes in and out of the nose. That's one of its many jobs. But things can go wrong with that. So that they're the kind of diagnosable airway disorders.
Okay.
But that is distinct from recognizing a function in the airway that's not ideal or not optimal.
Okay. Yeah. Can you name some common ones that maybe people have heard before, but they don't recognize that it's actually an airway disorder? Is asthma considered an airway disorder?
Well, asthma is definitely an airway disorder. But if we're talking about the other behaviours that are more likely to be less on the radar are the myofunctional behaviours.
Okay.
It's how the muscles are behaving in the system.
Understood.
So we get so used to watching people mouth breathing, for example, mouth hanging open. Sometimes the tongue is forward and outside of the mouth or beyond the teeth. And people think it's normal. And yet that is a prime airway clue that the airway system is not working the way it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So lips, tongue, they're clues.
Yeah. Okay.
They are clues.
I love that. And so you're very well aware of the CAF's Fix by 6 campaign, which highlights a critical window for intervention. And so can you explain a little bit more of why early detection and intervention of airway disorders and these improper functioning of the muscles, why is that so important to detect early?
It's critical. It's critical because usually those airway dysfunctions or non-ideal functions, they don't go away by themselves. So, for example, if a child starts mouth breathing, it can continue by habit even after that they had a cold, which may have precipitated it in the first place. That behaviour may keep going.
Okay.
All right. So, first of all, there's that. And then if children are mouth breathing and they continue mouth breathing, it will virtually always impact the quality of their sleep because it interferes with staying in the right sleep stages and phases, which we talked a bit about the other day.
Yes.
I won't go into detail there. But the other thing, it's so important to intervene early because children are growing at an incredibly fast rate, both their body and their brain. And if we think about how just the face and the jaws grow, they're the front part of the airway. By 2, that's 50% grown.
Right.
And by 7, it's nearly 70% grown. So it's growing at an incredibly fast rate. And not only that, under the age of 6, before those big new adult teeth come in, all of the bones, the bony structure in particularly the upper jaw and the face, they're soft and malleable. And the way the muscles work shapes them or helps them to grow. All right. So if there are poor airway habits in a child's early life, it can lead to poor airway development. But if there are good airway muscle habits early in life, it can promote the growth of the face and the jaws. It's really, really important. And there's probably 500 different ways of doing airway fitness, promoting airway health, growth and development, especially when they're young.
Yeah. they're learning about airway disorders, there is I read about that there is a bit of a link between ADHD diagnoses and people who have airway disorders.
Mhm.
For the behavioral aspect of that, how could early detection help kids in school?
Well, there's a bridge between how healthy kids are in those early stages of development and when they start school,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they're healthier, and the keeping up with their developmental milestones under the age of 6
Mm-hmm.
is going to make their school entry smooth and perfect. When there are airway challenges, some of the most common problems with something like mouth breathing is learning, focus, attention, behavior, emotional regulation, and they're all things that can look a lot like ADHD. So they can be misdiagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, if a child has a genuine diagnosis of ADHD, many of them also do have airway disorders, but airway disorders are going to make it a lot worse.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so by detecting these disorders early in children, you can really help a child's school life tremendously and their adult life tremendously by helping them focus.
Yeah, I mean, the
focus.
ripple effects can go on forever
Oh my
if you don't attend to it.
Yeah.
So you imagine that a child under the age of 6 has missed a lot of the critical developmental milestones. They're delayed because of this. Well, how are they going to catch up?
Yeah.
And because once they start at school, they're already behind.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we would want to do is help kids be totally school ready, as healthy and happy as they possibly can on that first day of school.
Yeah. And this is something that I think that parents should especially know about is that there could be another kind of problem going on other than ADHD. It could be something that causes that. And so when we tackle the symptoms, then we can alleviate some of the other downstream effects of those problems.
Yeah, certainly.
So what types of airway disorders are you commonly seeing in your practice?
Okay, well, it depends on where the referral comes from. So if it's a medical specialist referral, it might come from a pulmonologist who says, little Johnny has a cough that just won't go away. Could you fix it, please? And there's lots of different things that we can do to help with that.
Yeah.
Or he might say, little Johnny has their breathing is not as it should be. Can you help him learn to breathe well? No problem. Okay, ear, nose and throat specialist, they may send a referral that says, little Susie has had their tonsils and adenoids out and their soft palate's not working properly, so can you help with that? Or a child who may have had lots of ear problems, either with infections or middle ear fluid that affected how their speech and language was developing, so I would help with that. A pediatric sleep specialist, they might say, can you help little Johnny with snoring? Or can you help with just learning to breathe well?
Yeah.
That would help them breathe better at nighttime. Who else? We have lots of pediatricians. So if children are behind on their learning speech and learning how to eat well, might get a referral to help a child with that.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Awesome. We were seeing a lot of videos. I recently did a 2-day training with you about airway disorders, and we were selling videos of children chewing in the proper way that we chew. And these things are just, before that, I didn't think about a proper way of chewing because we're just eating, I'm just eating. So now I find myself really looking at my daughter. How does she chew? Is she chewing good? And myself, am I chewing good? And so these are things that parents, another thing that parents can look at to make sure that their child is developing to their optimal ability. And so there are so many things that parents have to do. So many things these days, or so many things.
Too many things.
So many. And I, for one, am always panicked over, anything. My daughter has a cough. I'm thinking it's World War III. So what are some of the early signs of or red flags that parents might notice at home that you might want to do more?
Okay, what are some of the early signs? I think if we focused on just learning how to see what the muscles are doing.
Mm.
So we were saying earlier, we don't notice our breathing, we don't notice how we eat or speak. We just don't think about it unless something goes wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But if you learn to see and listen just a little bit differently, it's like developing a new lens,
Mm-hmm.
I think. You say, well, what is that tongue doing during breathing? What are the lips and the jaw doing during breathing? And what we want to see is we don't want to see the tongue moving or visible.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to see that during breathing, for example, that the lips are always closed,
Mm-hmm.
or at least 90% of the time that they're closed, not even a little bit open. And we also want to look at what the body is doing. And many people are surprised when we start talking about the body because they say, well, what's the body got to do with the airway?
Mm.
Well, the way the body posture is determines head-neck alignment, and head-neck alignment needs to be just right to keep the airway open.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we look at those sorts of things. So in posture, we don't want to see kids slumpy all the time. We want to encourage them to be upright but relaxed.
Yeah.
With the lips, we're always encouraging them to have their lips closed. And if parents are noticing that their lips are open all the time, probably just want to try and figure out why.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a habit or is there something behind that? If they've got what we call sticky out tongue, which is often what happens with an airway issue, just watch, if your child is beyond the age of 12 months, 2 years, and their tongue is just sticking out all the time or often, it'd be good to find out why.
Yeah.
And what's behind that.
Yeah. So what are some common misconceptions about airway disorders in children?
Lots. Many people think that mouth breathing is normal and acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
Many people think that though, the new trend, the pouches, the sucky tubes.
Yes.
Did you know that sales have increased 900% over the last few years?
It's the trend right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they're now popular with teenagers as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That really surprised me.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, they're not great.
Mm-hmm.
They're certainly not great for airway because they encourage the muscles to do all the wrong things, the things that we don't want them doing.
Mm-hmm.
Extended thumb and finger sucking, pacifier use of spout bottles. Really kids should be drinking from a cup, small bits of water, small amounts of water from a cup from about the age of 6 months.
And why is that? Why is that we want kids to not suck on pouches and not suck on sippy cups?
Well, the aperture of the pouch is small. So if you look at the lip and tongue positions and the movements required to suck effectively on those pouches or those spout bottles, it's virtually the opposite to what we want the muscles to be doing.
What do we want the muscles to be doing?
We want those lips together and in more of a straight smiley position, and we want the tongue inside the mouth, not moving forward and back, but moving up and back.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. And so I also recognize there's a huge component for chewing, but we as humans, we need to chew. Do you think that plays a role in the lack of chewing that there is going on, a role in non-functioning airway? Today?
I do. I think it's got a really important role, and we could even go back a few hundred years to start this conversation, actually, because around about the Industrial Revolution, 300-400 years ago, our eating practices started to change, and breastfeeding practices changed.
Yeah.
And so at the time, many women had gone to work, and so they went to bottle feeding. And still bottle feeding is the most common way that children are fed, even though breastfeeding is encouraged.
Yes.
But the other thing is that our diet has changed, and more than 90% of the population just only eats soft food.
Yeah.
That's it, soft food. 90% plus of their diet is soft food. Some people don't chew more than 4 minutes a day. And it's not enough because chewing, especially in the early years on firm, fresh, fibrous food, it grows the jaws and the airway. And it creates denser bone, which is really important for airway health.
Yeah.
Chewing is important.
Yeah. We like to think of, for exercise, we need plenty of exercise. Our kids need to run, but also our face needs exercises. And I was so surprised when you were teaching us tongue exercises about like how much it actually exercises my face. And it's a muscle that I have not worked out enough. I talk all the time, but it's a muscle that I've not worked out in that way. So just kind of reframing our brains that our kids do need that type of exercise. We do need proper chewing, especially from infancy when they're learning how to chew. They need to learn correctly. So starting them on the best path is so vital.
It's such a great point. And what I often see is that chewing, for example, kids may be taught to keep their lips together for chewing, but it's more for manners than anything else. Nutritionists are teaching that chewing on certain foods is important for nutrition, but no one is really talking about the mechanical effects of chewing, how important it is to bone health and growth.
So you're currently in the initial phases of designing a program for early childhood development the early childhood development community. So over the past several months, and I've been discussing it, we've been in a training of optimal airway development for children. And so this has been such a pleasure learning from you. I've learned so much from the past, especially in the past 2 days. So I wanted to learn more. In what ways can early childhood educators and programs contribute to the early identification of airway disorders in young children? How can they help?
A lot. A lot. We could leave it there, but no, I have got some other things to say.
Yeah.
I think that early childhood educators, if we just first think that half of the population of children under 6 are in daycare, number one, because many parents have to work, and in many cases, both parents have to work quite long hours.
Yeah.
And so we have the children in daycare, and during their day, sometimes long hours and long days, they play, they eat, they speak, they sleep. So all of those moments when we can observe airway clues, airway observations, early childhood teachers are in the perfect position to see any of those challenges with airway that might indicate, do we need to see a health professional? Don't we need to see a health professional? Do we keep an eye on it for a little while? Do we just notice? And then, if it's decided that little Susie, for example, might need some health professional expertise, well, then the director can start a conversation with the parents because early childhood centres have a close relationship with the parents and hopefully a really good one.
Yeah.
You see them at drop-off, you see them at pick-up. It's also a brilliant opportunity to educate and provide resources to parents because you mentioned earlier, you said parents often don't know about these things. They don't.
Right.
Because no one told them. I mean, it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
No one told them.
Yeah.
And so what a wonderful opportunity to be able to provide that kind of education. So seeing clues, relationship with parents, and what about the activities during the day? There are, okay, I'm going to exaggerate, maybe 5,000 different ways of promoting airway health in early childhood.
Yeah.
Games, activities, songs, rhymes, the list goes on. You can do them all day.
Yeah.
So it really is the perfect time to pick all that up. And, it's early intervention. It's the best time. Airway fitness, I would have to say, is the superhighway to children's health, growth and development. And all of that can happen in early education.
I love that. That was beautiful. Beautifully stated. Beautifully stated. So what advice would you give, Sharon, to parents and educators who want to learn more or take action?
Oh, okay. Well, if you're interested in this area, contact CAF. Go on the website, have a look at the resources that are already there. There's a big reading list, but there's also lots of blogs. There's a Facebook group, I think, for parents.
Yep. Children's Airway First.
And so get involved and just start looking at your child with new eyes and listening, to those airway clues that might indicate that your child could benefit from airway fitness or need to see a health professional. Yeah.
Awesome.
New eyes and ears.
I love that. Well, Ms. Sharon, thank you so much for joining us. It is very apparent and evident of how much you are so passionate. Not only are you so passionate about this children's well-being, but how much you genuinely care for other people. And so it's been very special to spend time with you. And we just really thank you for joining us. And if you guys have not read yet, gotten your copy of Sleep-Wrecked Kids by Sharon Moore, please get your copy. It's such a good book. It discusses why our kids are not sleeping and a sleep routine for your children and just all out education for having the best sleep routine for your child at night. So very useful to help parents raising happy and healthy kids, one sleepy kid at a time. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining us today on this episode of Airway First. If you notice any signs of an airway disorder in your child or in a child that you know, please do not hesitate to reach out to your pediatrician for guidance and support. For more information and helpful resources, be sure to visit our website at children'sairwayfirst.org. Also, stay connected with us on our social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Our Instagram and Facebook handles are at Children's Airway First. And check out our weekly blog posts. They're very engaging and you're not going to want to miss them. We genuinely appreciate your continued support. If you enjoyed this episode, please do not forget to like and subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time. Until then, take a deep breath, stay informed, and stay inspired. Bye, guys.